Well, it's a beautiful autumn day, first week in October, and we're on our way to the most fantastic place, Hagfors Kommun's own Moose Park. And there are many people here waiting today to have a look at this spectacularly beautiful place. It is, should I say, a place you simply have to visit. If you come to Hagfors Kommun, you have to come to the Moose Park. This tour is packed out usually at least 6 months of the year. Let me take you around and show you this most fantastic place. A little shop, and how beautiful. Sweden, and the Moose Park. It's almost the end of the season, but it feels so wonderful and so right. Well, the tour is about to begin. And here it is. Off go the people into this beautiful Moose Park.
There's two elements to the tour. The first one is meeting them, having a good look at a moose, touching them, feeding them a little bit, having a look how they move, have a look at their eyes, ears, their winter coat, and how it feels. That's the tactile element of the tour. But we try also to be educational. So during the tour, we're going to stop and talk about them and try and tell their story a little bit, so you understand how they fit in to the story of Sweden, but largely also how they fit into the ecosystem, how they've interacted with predators over time, you know, where their behaviour comes from, things about their diet. So at the end of the tour, what we're hoping to do is having given you a good introduction, and you walk away with a much better understanding of them and how they fit into the picture out here. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. What we are not trying to do, and this is very important to understand, what we are not trying to do is replace the experience of seeing this deer in the wild. Okay, because you cannot replace that experience with a moose park. You just can't do it. A moose park is an artificial system. There are fences. The moose inside also are used to humans. They see thousands of people every summer, okay, in Sweden, which means they're a little bit different to the ones out here, okay? And I don't want anybody to walk away from today and think that they can take a piece of apple or a stick or something, or a bit of food, and walk out there and say hello to a wild moose. Especially important for the children. It's important that everybody understands that moose are actually, can be a dangerous animal. As long as you understand their nature, you can't really get into trouble with them, but if you do get into trouble with a moose, it can take you away very quickly. They deserve a lot of respect. In Sweden they do have a lot of respect, so people that live around moose know that you don't want to kind of approach a moose out here, all right? Try to get too close. You don't want to follow it, you don't want to put it under any pressure. What you want to do is, if you see a moose, is just kind of say hello and then let it walk away at its own time away from you, and then it's under no pressure, okay? Because as a human, we cannot manage the risk that a moose can give you if you're in that closer space, all right? Just can't do it. Having said that, you can meet them here in a way you can't out here, so it's a nice combination, but do try to see them in the wild as well. How many people have seen moose in the wild before? Quite a few of you. Okay, awesome. Keep going. For those of you who haven't seen them, this is a difficult time of year to see them in the wild because it gets darker earlier, okay, but the summertime is very good because it stays light, so you can see them at like 11 o'clock in the evening. But it's just about understanding them and their behaviour, you're more likely to see them. Alright, so before we go down, I'm just going to give you a bit of information about this structure, because you're going to be seeing this on the head of two of the bulls today. You might touch it actually on their head. And it's a very important structure for this species of deer. Moose are the biggest deer in the world. They have the biggest antlers as well in the world, and it's a very important structure. Only the male has a crown on moose. The female does not have a crown, but it's still very important to her. Okay, and this is like a key that opens the door to their world a little bit. If you understand the crown and what it's for, you understand a lot more about this deer, so it is worth just spending 10 minutes and going over it. So this is an antler, or an älghorn in Swedish. This is actually a fjällhorn, okay, so a fallen antler. So this is one that was grown through the spring and summer, and then he used it during the mating season, and then after the mating season he threw it away. And that's basically what a bull will do every year. This is made of bone, okay, and it's the fastest growing bone in the mammal kingdom. And it starts to pop out of his head in April, and it grows through spring and summer all the way up until about the middle of August. All right. While it's growing, it's got blood in the bone marrow, so it sits on his head like this, and he's pumping that with lots of blood in here. It's soft bone, and then on top of the bone there's lots of veins covering the front and the back, and you can see the patterns that they've left in the bone. They're covering it, and then on top of that there's a skin called bast in Swedish and German. It has little hairs on it, and that kind of just protects it a little bit from getting too cold in the night time, that sort of thing. When you touch a crown in the summer, it will be very different than it is now. In the summertime it's really soft and velvety. That skin is called velvet in English, really nice name. When you touch them here in like June, July, even August, it's really warm because you can feel the heat from the blood just underneath the skin. So you get a good sensation of how alive and fragile this is during the growing phase, okay? And it is very fragile. And that's important to understand about the bull, because you'll hear this name of him, the king, or kungen, skogens konung, like the forest king. And he's very famous for that name, but it's really important to understand in the summertime, you're not looking at the king. You'll never see a king in the summertime, because the king is an aggressive, confrontational, dominant male. Okay, that's what he's got. He's got high testosterone. The summer bull, because he's got this fragile crown that he can damage, nature has had to turn him right down. Okay, and nature's lowered his testosterone right down, so he's not very aggressive. He's not particularly dominant. If he sees a female, like a mama moose, he's going to move away from her very quickly. He doesn't want to be close to her. If he sees her in the summer and he stays where he is, she's probably going to get annoyed with him and chase him away, and he will run. Okay, the king will never run. The female knows that's a different bull, right, in the mating season. But in the summertime, that low testosterone does mean he's less likely to get into trouble. He keeps himself in the background, and he should be able to improve his chances of growing his crown nicely without too much injury. All right, just to give you an idea, if he runs into a tree hard in June, he can rip open his crown. It's a soft bone. If he cuts himself on the back here, where he has big veins, notice they're at the back on purpose. It's a good place to protect them normally, but if he did cut them somehow, he can bleed to death, or he can lose a lot of blood. So it's good to have low testosterone. But the difference in character between that bull and the bull that is coming soon is massive in terms of aggression and behavior. All right, so what will happen in late August, the crown is finished. Yeah, it hardens up underneath the skin, the blood drains, you can feel the temperature drop as the blood closes off, you can feel the skin is getting tighter and thinner, and you can feel it's harder underneath. And then very shortly after that, what he'll do is he'll rip off the velvet. Okay, and he'll scratch it on trees, rips it off, it's hanging off, then it falls away, and then this is what's left, the finished crown. Hard, sharp, dead bone sticking out each side of his head. Okay, now he's spent a lot of time and energy over the spring and summer investing that time and energy into this structure, because it is very, very important to him and the female. And at some point in September, what will happen is the mating season will begin. Actually, the mating window for moose is September till November. All right, but when it starts exactly in your area depends where you are in Sweden. It will start earlier in the north and it will start later in the south, because the triggers for the females to become fertile are to do with the autumn. Yeah, temperature, leaves falling off, protein dropping, that gives her signals that this is the time to start getting ready to be pregnant. So I'm giving birth 8 months later at the right time in spring. So I've got time to bring up my calves before the winter comes, you know, get them as strong as possible. So they will start mating earlier up the north, later in the south, okay? Everything's linked to the climate, yeah? All right, but what will happen with the bull, when he rips off the skin, his testosterone will increase a little bit. And you'll see some behavior differences. He'll start to move differently. He might give you more aggressive eye language. His ears might come down more. He might even start doing this a little bit as he's walking. Okay, you want to stay away from a bull if he's doing that, by the way. You won't see a bull do that in the sun, all right? And eventually you'll see him peeing in mud, giving it a good smell. I need a little bit more. He needs a little bit more there. Once it's a nice smell, he'll smash that all over his neck, his face, his chest, his shoulders. So the king really stinks. He's got a finished crown with no velvet. He's got high testosterone, and he's got a stinking kind of smell, musky. Okay. Now the females, they're split up all over the place. Okay, with moose. Moose don't walk around in big groups, but luckily for the bull, they're giving off pheromones, and the bull can use his big nose to smell those pheromones. And when he picks up pheromones with his testosterone, he really wants to kind of get moving and find out where that smell is coming from. It drives him forward to react to what he's supposed to do, which is mate with the cow. Now, it might take him some time to find a cow, but he will track her down because she's giving this trail off of pheromones, so she can't really get away. But when he turns up, she's not going to be chasing him now, okay? And the cow often has young ones with her during the mating season. She's given birth to them in May or June. We're in September, October now, so they're a few months old, but they're still with her, and they will still be with her all the way up until the next birthing season, a few months, 8 months later up. Yeah. And once she gives birth to her new calves, that's the time when these older ones, these 1-year-olds, get kicked out. So when that bull turns up, that female's probably got a lot of work on. She's been spending some months now raising them up, and those calves will just stay out of the way. They'll see that bull and they'll just go, okay, we'll stay out of the way. Now as the bull kind of approaches the female, it's very normal for the female to be uninterested in the bull, okay? She knows that he's high testosterone, but she also knows that she needs to respect him. She can't kind of chase him away. She can't really run away, but she's going to be careful. She's going to be quite submissive, and you'll hear a female do a lot of submissive calls at this time of year, which is like, and she's doing that sound to the bull just to tell him, like, I'm no trouble, don't get carried away, okay? And the bull will try and go around the back of her and give her a smell, put his head on the back of her, and he's kind of saying, can we mate? And normally the female says no, and she walks off. Oh. Yeah, so very normal when the bull shows up that he's got to hang around with her for a few days at least before she makes a decision to actually mate with that bull. That is very important to understand about moose, and that's when you see a bull shadowing a female, okay? and she's got young ones with her. And what she's doing is she is being intelligent, and she's waiting to see if there's a better bull in her area, you know, to mate with. She's not going to mate with the first male that turns up. It's in her interest to mate with the best possible male, okay, to get the best possible calves, the strongest, the fastest, the healthiest, because when she gives birth to them, 8 months later, she is on her own. Only the mama moose brings up calves, no other help, okay? For 1 year, that's a lot of work, and it's in her interest to try and improve her chances. So she's got that drive to kind of wait for as long as possible. Now the bull, he wants to mate with the female as fast as possible. And this crown has 2 functions, okay? And the first function of the crown is the most important, I think, for the female and male. What the female needs is a signal that when that bull shows up, she's got good information about how attractive that male is, so she can make a good decision. And this is the signal, okay? This is literally a crown, okay? And a female would mate with a king with a large, heavy, expensive crown, because it gives her information that he's a good king, okay? He's got some power. Now, for the bull, that's very important as well. So what you'll see is she's more attracted to a crown that's got a heavy beam, big size, lots of points, wide. You can't fake that. A young bull is never going to have that crown. You have to get through a few seasons to even start having an attractive crown to a female, okay? There's a lot of evidence there. Now, if a big bull turns up with a nice crown, she'll mate with him much faster, okay? That's very important for the bull, because his objective is to mate with as many cows as possible. He's not interested in how attractive a female is. He's not looking at the potential of the calves that she'll produce. He's only interested in her because she's fertile, yeah? And he wants to mate with her and then get out of there as quickly as possible, so he's got as much time to track down another cow. Yeah, and a successful bull will mate with a number of cows each season and dominate his gene pool with his calves. That's what he wants to do. So again, it's in his interest to have the biggest, best crown possible, so that he can get a good reaction from the female and spend as little time around her as possible and have as much time as possible searching for the next one, okay? Because they're all on the clock at the same time. In your local area, all the females are ticking down at the same time. And there's a lot of males out here, so they need to be fast, they need to be attractive. He will have to invest a bit of time with her. He'll have to stay around for a couple of days, get the reaction, mate with her, and then he won't leave her until he knows that she is pregnant, okay? So he'll mate with her a number of times, many times as she'll let him basically. But every time she takes a pee, what you'll see is a bull will be behind her, and then he'll be very interested in the pee. And he'll go down and smell that, and then he'll kind of lift up his lips, get a good sniff down, and he'll analyze the pee for the hormones. And when he senses that the hormones have changed, he knows that she's pregnant. That's the time where he will go, "Thank you very much, I'm out." And he'll let it go. Yeah, because he no longer needs to protect that space around her. She's no longer fertile. He's good, he's done his job. No other bull is going to be interested. Tick. Let's get the next one. And she's fine about that, actually. He's quite irritating for her. She's got calves with her. She doesn't need him around. He's just noisy, aggressive, smells. He brings in attraction. She wants to slip away again into the forests and fields with her calves, go stealth again. So she's quite happy when he leaves, all right? But he's got more time now to find another cow. So that's the first function. That's the most important one. That's why there's such a big evolutionary push on a crown for a moose to get size. That's why some of these monsters in Canada have unbelievable crowns, and that's why this is the fastest growing bone in the mammal kingdom. A big bull in Canada, Alaska, maybe Jämtland in Sweden, can grow his crown 3 centimeters in 1 day. Incredible. The second function of the crown is to help a bull protect the space around a fertile female. Okay, so when that bull shows up, remember he'll probably have to be walking around with her for a few days. She is fertile at that point. She's giving off pheromones. She's very valuable. And if there's other bulls in the area, they're going to come in and have a look. So this guy is going to have to be able to challenge or push away another bull, all right? And I'll give you the scenario of how they do it. They use their crowns to do this. Let's say there's a bull here, there's a female there. He's been walking around with her for 3 days. He's getting irritated. That's normal. And then all of a sudden another bull walks into the picture, and he's been tracking and smelling this female for about 1 day. And he knows she's fertile. He also knows there's a bull around her because he can smell him too, because he stinks. And he'll be walking into the picture doing this with his crown, okay? And that's when you'll see a bull really doing that. Because what he's doing is he's signaling to the other male that he is challenging for the female. And he'll also be going as he comes into the picture. Okay, so this guy knows exactly what's going on. He's being challenged by this male. He's unlikely to give up this space. He could walk away. Be careful you don't get your hand ripped off by Elvis. But he's unlikely to, because it is valuable. He's wasted 3 days. So he'll probably accept the challenge, and he'll leave the cow and walk out to meet the challenging bull. And he'll be doing this as well. So you see two bulls kind of walking together, slowly dipping their antlers as they step, and they'll both be kind of going as they move closer. Their eyes will be wide and doing rotating, and their ears will be down, hair will be up. But they're not running at each other, smashing each other like red deer, for example. They're completely different behavior. They're moving slowly. As they approach, they'll often actually split and circle each other. There are no other deer that do that. And as they circle, they're really lowering, and they look aggressive, and they're checking each other out. But at some point, they've got to begin the test of dominance and find out which is the dominant male there. Okay, so they'll come head to head, they'll lower their heads, and then they'll use this structure as the locking structure to lock in head to head. And it's good if it's got a big fat beam, it's wide, and it's got lots of points. And as the bull gets older and stronger, his lock is going to get better. Okay, he'll be able to dominate with that lock. But also, what you'll notice, as a bull gets older, much more than the female, his neck gets stronger and bigger. His shoulders and his chest get bigger, because when he's locked in, that's just the first phase. What he needs is power to be able to dominate the head of the other bull, and then he needs a strong back and bum and chest, shoulders to be able to push that bull back. Control the head, push that bull back. So a bull, when he's dominating another male, he wants to push him back this way. Okay. When you're locked in with a male, another bull, and you can feel your head being moved around and you're being stepped back, okay, it won't take you very long to instinctively understand that that male in front of you is the dominant male, and you need to respect that, and you need to show submission. Okay, and they learn this when they're young ones. Okay, because when you're a young 1 or 2 year old, you'll often be allowed to hang around with a bigger guy. Sometimes you'll see that a big bull and a little bull hanging around, and these guys learn this kind of process. So by the time they get to 3, 4, 5, they know what they're doing. Yeah. To show submission is very easy. You just have to unlock, turn, and then move away. Okay, you don't need to run off hysterically into the forest. You just need to show that bull you understand that he's dominant, and you want to get a bit of space, and then you can stop and you go. Yeah, and this guy is very happy. He looks more dominant. Yeah, he loves. And they kind of stand like that for a while. The female might be just over here. Yeah, she's like getting on with her calves. Yeah. But dominance has been established. So what will happen now is if this guy tries to go around to where the female is, this guy's going to come in just with a bit of body language and just kind of go, no, no, and he'll be able to push that other male away further. Okay, but he'll hang around. Then what he'll do is he'll make sure he gets in between the female and the other bull. And he'll just stand there, waiting. If the male goes over there, he'll go over there. If he turns around and goes over there, he'll go over there. And he'll shadow that other male. And eventually this male out here will lose interest and kind of move away. And this guy has now successfully replaced the space around this fertile female. And he did it without fighting, because what you saw there was never a real fight, because they did not kick each other once. Okay, and when a moose really fights like a predator, they're going to use their big kicks. They've got massive kicks to the front, they've got stamps, they can stab, they can kick up, they can kick with their back legs, big spinning back kicks. They can kick with one front leg opposite back leg. And when they like to go for it, they're going to be moving in with speed. So that's why you never want to get too close to a moose and give them a lot of respect, because for a human, a moose can kill you with one kick. But imagine them running at you fast. They'll knock you to the ground and then they'll just start stamping you. You know, that's not a good place. Normally that is a female, and normally she's much more dangerous than male. Normally it's because you got too close to her calves. So the summertime is actually, spring is more dangerous than now, because you're more likely to encounter a female with young calves. But anyway, so this was never a real fight. And this crown allowed these two fairly big, powerful bulls with high testosterone to meet and challenge each other. But because there were rules and it was ceremonial, the risk of injury was much lower than a big proper fight. And it's not often that a bull will get injured. Sometimes he might get a little cut, he might get a little wound, but usually he can get away with nothing. If their crowns get locked though, and they can't unlock, that's death. They'll die together, but that's pretty low risk. Yeah. Okay, now after the mating season, after they've used this to show off and to challenge other males, it's useless. Okay, so he wants to throw it away after the mating season. So it's literally just a mating structure. And the way it works is, let's say we've got to the end of October. The females now in his area are not giving off pheromones anymore. He's walking around trying to pick up pheromones. He can't pick any up. So what happens is his testosterone starts to naturally drop down, yeah, slowly, because he might pick up pheromones and then he'll go back up. But as it drops down, his appetite returns. He starts acting a little bit more normal. Hunters are like going, I think the bulls are finished. We can begin hunting now. So they're looking for that signal too, the drop. But the body goes, okay, my testosterone is back down to more normal levels. The mating season is over. I can throw this away now, and I can start to produce a chemical here, which is like an acid, and it dissolves the bone. So it takes a bit of time, but slowly that acid will dissolve that join, and then this will be ready to drop in December usually, and sometime. Could be beginning, could be end. Sometime in December, and it'll just plop, fall off his head. He'll walk off with the other one still in his head, usually. And he could be walking around for 3 days with that one on his head, and then eventually that would plop off as well. And it's very normal, actually, to only find a fjällhorn on its own in nature, because the other one fell off somewhere else. It's quite rare to find a pair of fjällhorn, and if you do, in Sweden you can take them, because we've got so many of these things all over the place, and they're pretty cool. During the winter, he has no crown, yeah, and he won't put any energy into building the crown, the new one, in the winter time. He'll just wear nothing, and he'll start to only invest energy into his new crown after the winter has broken and the spring is coming and it's starting, and then you'll see it pop out. And then what you'll see, as the energy in the season increases, he'll start to invest more and throw more into the crown. So you'll see it accelerate during late spring and early summer, when there's lots of energy, peak optimal energy, for him, food. And he'll go through a new cycle, ready for the next mating season. And he does this year after year. okay? But this will get bigger, wider, and add more points each year. So what you're looking at here, guys, is chronological order, I suppose, time-based. So this is a young one, first crown of his life, little 1-year-old, and he's moving up. And you can see he's getting more strong and attractive. And he'll get stronger and attractive all the way up until he's about 10 years old. A bull can live until he's 20 maximum. So peak bull, peak king is like halfway, about 10. And that's a really strong male. You won't see many of those in Sweden. But if you did, I guarantee he's going to get a lot of calves. Because all the girls are like, whoa, who the heck is that guy? Awesome structure. After that, as he gets older, his crown starts to get smaller. Yeah? So it's a very important structure. Just remember, the king is the bull with the finished crown, high testosterone. The summer bull is the one growing his crown ready for the king period. Yeah? Big difference. Any questions? Was that interesting?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Come into the garden after the tour, put these on your head, take some pictures or whatever, pick them up, have a little look at them, different ones. One other thing, we have a lot of moose in Sweden, okay, a lot. There are between 300,000 and 400,000 moose in Sweden. That's the biggest population per square kilometre in the world. There are more moose in Canada, but not as many per square kilometre. The density is higher here. And because of that, we have the biggest moose hunt in the world. You see this little fence that we're behind? This is only for you to reduce the risk of any sort of little kick. That means I don't have to worry about kids running around or people not hearing me properly, about body language and stuff. But you might be surprised to know that a fully grown moose could jump over this fence if they wanted to. Okay? And a moose can jump 2.2 up to 2.4 meters high. All right? Which is incredible. Now, you won't see moose jumping around in nature all the time because it's not something they need to do. But we know that they can jump very high because in the past, when moose parks first started, they had fences about this high on the outside. And during the mating season, the girls in the moose park give off the pheromones. They go out through the fences and around the local area, and the wild bulls on the outside come down and find the moose park, and they think bingo. They will try and push fences down perhaps, but if they were that low, they could just jump over and in the park, which is what happened a few times. So now the law is, if you've got moose in captivity, your outside fences have to be 2.5 meters minimum to stop wild bulls jumping in. It's not really to stop bulls jumping out, okay? But just think about that for a second. 500 kilogram male, just not running and jumping, just standing up, squatting and being able to jump up 2.2 meters, 2.4 meters. That is incredible power here, okay? They can also run very fast. Moose can gallop, okay? You will not see that very often in the wild. Hopefully you never see that, because that's an attack speed. When you see a moose galloping, they're normally chasing after something. But they can move up to 60 kilometers per hour on the gallop. It's normally if they're attacking. So if you see a moose galloping towards you, okay, in the summertime sometimes, that is not the time to be taking action photos. Wow, this is super cool, because they're not stopping. And it's probably a mama moose, and you've probably gone out into a field where she was on the other side. You misread the situation, you thought she was calm. She was staying there because she had her calves in the field, and you've just walked straight out into where her calves are. Now she's coming collecting. Have a little look at here, listen to her noise. She's very interested in the tar stuff we put on his wound on the side. But usually how they move is this sort of pace, walking. Moose have a reputation of being slow and lazy, and that's because in the summertime when you see a moose walking, which it will do most of the time, it's just walking really slow across the field or whatever. It takes its time, it doesn't go faster than it needs to, and sometimes They've even got a reputation of being clumsy because when they're walking, they will trip. And they do that quite often because they don't raise their feet very high off the floor. But if they were to be aware of something as they're walking and they hear some sound or they smell something strange, they immediately go up in alertness, and you'll see them stop. And they'll assess, they'll raise their nose, they'll get an idea of what that sound or smell is, and then they'll make a decision of what to do. Normally, the decision will be to move away from that risk, okay? And that's when they can use their second pace, which is the cruise. And what you're looking at is a deer that's a world-class cruising animal, and they can cruise on the trot between 15 and 30 kilometers per hour. And that's the road sign that you see. A moose it's in its cruising trot. Yeah? Very smooth backs, very still head, long thin legs, which are perfect because they can lift them up through bushes and little trees and just go straight through, not losing too much speed or energy in that movement, just cruising really smooth. World class. They've even got feet that when they hit soft ground, the two nails at the front will expand like that outwards, and then the two back nails, which are up here, they'll hit the ground like snow or mud, and they'll also open up. So actually a moose has very big feet, but they only open them when they need that extra surface area. In the summertime you'll see them closed on the hard ground. Okay, that's why a moose can outpower any horse through snow or forest marshes, because they're evolved for that type of terrain, adaptable feet. Yeah. Also very, very good swimmer. This is the closest you'll ever get to a water deer. All right, they've evolved close to water. The natural habitat of a moose is actually the water line of a lake or river, inside where there's plants, and then the shoreline where there's lots of like stuff they like to eat, like willow, and then up through the scrubby area, the young deciduous forest with the leaves that fall off, up to the top, the beginning of the coniferous forest, the pine and the spruce. Yeah, that's their area, because in that area there, with all the young diversity, that's where they find their food. Moose do not eat pine or spruce in the spring, summer, autumn. They'll eat a little bit of this stuff in the very cold winter. Little pine tree, they'll nibble, but the rest of the time they want birch, willow, rowan, asp, and you find that outside the commercial forest. You find that out these forests around the edges of fields, down by lakes and rivers. So when you're looking for moose, think about where they're going to find food. They're tree eaters, but they also eat plants in the water. Yeah. There's no problem about a moose going into the water, chest deep, nice plant, sticking its head under the water and ripping up all that good energy. And they're actually evolved for it. They can shut valves in their nose, they can turn their ears down, they can swallow underwater without swallowing water. So you can tell they've learned how to extract that energy from a long time ago. They're very comfortable in the water, and they're a very powerful swimmer, okay, which you'd expect being so close to water. And when you see a moose swim, it really glides through the water. Its nose is perfectly adapted, so its nostrils are just above the waterline. Its head is like that, and it's really quite an efficient swimmer. It can't swim that fast, 6 kilometers per hour maximum speed, but it can swim for 20-25 kilometers. Long way before it needs to stop. And a moose will learn to swim very young, okay? A mother moose will put her calves into water to begin the swimming lessons when they're 2 weeks old. And they're tiny at that age, they're really small. But as they grow up and get stronger, they will turn into the most powerful swimmer. A swimmer that can swim over any lake, any river, even across small stretches of sea. Like moose have swum across small stretches of sea. There was one that swam from Sweden to Denmark a few years ago, across the islands. It's not that, it's kilometers though, salt water. In Alaska, moose have been seen out in the actual sea, swimming from island to island. So very powerful swimmer. Water is definitely a big part of their habitat. These guys are now set up and getting ready for one of the harder periods of the season, which will be the winter. So they have spent quite a lot of time growing out their winter coat through the summer, okay, and it's now popping out, and that's going to be good down to minus 40 degrees C. So they're good in the cold, and they'll keep that on during the winter, and then they'll slowly start losing that in springtime. But actually in June, a moose is still losing its old winter coat. So if you get a very hot May, it can be very hot for a moose. And when you see a moose in July, you're not looking at a moose with a short summer coat on. What that is, it's a short winter coat that's growing at the perfect pace to be ready when it's needed. So with climate change and rapid changes in temperature, that can have a real big effect on this deer, because it's evolved over a long period of time for a certain tempo. Yeah, and they don't like the heat. Don't have to worry about a moose in the cold, guys. It's the heat where you have to worry about. In the summertime, although there's a lot of food, that's the time they'll be under more stress actually from climate, because they can't lose heat as effectively as they can keep heat in. And you have to be a little bit careful with heat and moose. So if it gets very hot and it's dry, mothers will increase the rate of rejecting their calves. You'll see more mortality, higher rates of death with moose from heat exhaustion. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 100 years with this deer.
Do you spray them here in the winter or in the summer? Maybe?
Yeah, you have to spray them. You don't. They hate the spray.
Okay.
You can spray the back of the legs a little bit, all right. But you want to put on like an anti-fly thing from the tip to the back. But they're not cows or horses. You try and do that without them sedated, it's a nightmare. So you have to try and get the best application you can. But moose in the wild are surrounded by flies. Imagine the power of their kick. They can kick with any leg when you can jump up that high and you can run that fast. That is why a moose is such a formidable animal to take on, because the power of their kick, if you get it wrong, will take you away. And if you're a predator, you've always had a problem with moose if you wanted to try and take them, because the risk of injury is very high. Most predators cannot go anywhere near a moose because they can't manage the risk. The power that a moose has is enough to keep a lot of them from even attempting to take you down. That is a good protector. But they do have some predators, one in particular that causes them issues. But they really only have 3 predators, which all 3 are here in Sweden, Alaska, Canada, Siberia, you know, where you see moose a lot. They're old predators as well. Can you name them, the 3 predators? Yeah, the wolf is one.
Humans
yeah, humans, and then the brown bear. So where you get the black bear, forget about the black bear. But the brown bear, so we have the brown bear here. We don't have the big brown bear, the grizzly, but where, you know, grizzly in Canada, the big brown bear, that's also a predator. Now of those 3, you might be surprised to know that the bear is the least dangerous. No big deal if you're a moose and you got bear in your area. You have to respect the bear. You have to be aware, but as long as you're aware, the bear won't cause you any problem, actually. When you're an adult male, you don't really need to worry about a bear anyway. The risk of the injury from going after an adult male for the bear is very high. One big kick in the jaw or something to crack and can break something. Yeah? Also, the bears are asleep for the whole of the winter, hibernating. But when they wake up, there is one particular moose that's always had to be willing to interact with the bear aggressively. Yeah? And that is the female, the mother moose. If you want to pick one of the warriors, male or female, it's going to be the female with moose, because she's the one that's been put under pressure with predators the most, and she's over time developed aggression and ruthlessness, I would say. So she is quite aggressive. Now, when she gives birth to her calves in spring, the bear has just woken up. If a bear sees her with her young little calves walking on a trail, it's very natural behavior for the bear to want to follow her. It's got this instinct that there might be an opportunity here if it can get one of those calves. It's not really interested in adults, not really. Yeah? And you've seen this many times. There's lots of videos of this in Canada and Sweden of mothers being followed by bears. You can look at those up yourself in Google, whatnot. And she's been around bears thousands of years. One of the things about the female, gives you a lot of insight, is how she reacts with the bear. Okay, she doesn't often panic. because she will be followed by bear from time to time. It's just a natural part of bringing up your calves in bear territory. They're going to follow you sometimes. And what you don't want to do is panic and run. Yeah, that's what the bear might be following you for. Are you going to run? Because if you're going to run, I'm going to chase your calves down. So she doesn't, and it's been caught on video. What she'll often do is walk calmly away. She's looking at the bear with her ears, and then she'll stop, and then she turns around, and then she faces the bear, and the bear will stop. Her calves will go behind her. They're like, Mum, what's going on? Get behind me. And then she's going, just wait here. I'm going to go and talk to this bear. And she will actually be prepared to just walk slowly towards the bear. Yeah? No aggression at that point, just in body language, ears down, eyes doing this. And it's quite intimidating if you get a female with doing that to you. And the bear is intimidated as well. It gets the instinct that the risk is going up. She's not responded in the way the bear wanted, which is to run away. She's turned around, she's coming towards the bear. So usually the bear gets the message and the bear backs off, because a predator cannot afford to get injured in nature, right? Just can't afford that, and there's a risk of injury. She'll turn around and start walking off again, and the bear will probably start following her again. So she's got to actually be prepared to put the hammer down. She's not bluffing. And that's why it's really good to be able to get a bit of speed up. She'll turn around again. This time she might actually charge that bear. Yeah. The bear needs to move at that point. It needs to start running. And I've seen a video of a big male grizzly bear, probably in Canada, running. And they can run at 60 kilometers per hour as well. They can really move. All right. And he's going full speed. And just behind him is a female moose. I assume it was a mother moose, and she's chasing after this bear, and it's quite obvious which one is in dominance at that point. It's the mama moose, and she's like basically, you know, get away, and that bear is running for its life, you know, and she's trying to smash it. She's about 2 meters away. Okay, so they can handle bears. A bear trying to catch a 1 or 2 year old, good luck. The moment a moose, young one, hears or smells something that could be a bear, it's going to move away. And remember, it can cruise, it can swim. A bear has to spend a lot of energy trying to chase down a little one. They're better off just catching fish, really. You know, catch the fish, eat the berries. If you've got a very good opportunity with a deer, take it, but you're not a deer hunter if you're a bear, you're not. The human is these days it's the most dangerous predator. Understand that. When you're out there looking for moose and they see you, understand that relationship. They're looking at the most dangerous animal they'll meet. They're looking at the animal that will probably take them. So don't put them under any pressure by wanting to be their friend, because it's very confusing, and that's when you can get smashed. Yeah, just understand that. We've been hunting moose for a long time. 10,000 years ago, the humans that lived in this area were hunting moose by digging moose pits. Okay, and they used that technique in Scandinavia for thousands of years. They were wide at the top, narrow at the bottom, lined with wood. The humans that lived amongst moose in these regions learned long ago it's a good animal to take, but you've got to do it without getting close to the kicks. So holes are the best way. If you try and take them with spears, you're going to get smashed. But if you get them in a hole, you can take care of them, little risk of injury, and then you get all the meat, the skin, the leather, you know, good products. There are 3 moose pits not far away, by the way, 20 kilometers away, that were dated 10,000 years old. So I'm not joking, there's thousands of these moose pits in Sweden, Norway, Finland. Very good technique. Native Americans used bows and arrows. I guess they had superior technology, superior hunting techniques for that deer at that time. Okay, these days in Scandinavia, they're not hunting with moose pits. They're using very powerful weapons, and actually Sweden has the biggest moose hunt in the world. It is very, very large. There's nothing else like it, actually. And it's a very high-tech hunt. It's now, and actually when you're driving around, you might see people now with, you know, their pickups wearing orange caps, orange scarves. They're the hunters. They're hunting moose now. And they hunt as a team. They use guns only, no crossbows allowed in Sweden, gun only, very powerful gun, good optics, very well trained hunters in Sweden for the gun and moose. They've been hunting them at scale for decades. And they also use dogs, so they'll send out their dogs. Those dogs will go out and try and track the area, see a moose and start barking. Okay, so you'll see dogs running around with orange vests on, random. Don't worry, it's not abandoned, it's out on the hunt. But the dog has a collar on, which has GPS on, so the hunters know exactly where their dog is. And also when it starts to bark, which means I have found a moose, it sends the barking signal. It's got a sensor on the neck there. It sends a barking signal. So they use that as a tool. That's a very highly evolved predator, high tech, very dangerous. You can't do much about that. But if you don't have your weapons or your holes, I wouldn't call us a very dangerous predator, because you just get smashed by them. The apex predator, the one that gives you a lot of insight into moose that you need to think about, is the wolf. That really is historically been the only, apart from humans, as the only one that's really given them a lot of trouble. They do not like wolves. The best strategy for the moose when they were evolving with the wolf pack was always to avoid the wolf pack. And when you look at a moose, you can see the wolf in the shadow of them, if you just think about what a moose is. When you look at a wolf pack, you can really see the moose in them as well. Wolves hunt two main types of prey: moose and buffalo, bison. You know, these are big animals, high risk. Buffalo herd, they walk around in big groups. If you're a wolf pack going after buffalo, you can follow the herd, which is nice, but you have to be very patient and choose the time to strike when they've stretched out, switched off. Yeah? Moose, they don't herd, they split up. That's their strategy. You don't follow us around, you've got to track us down one after the other. You've got to spend a lot of energy and time tracking one down, and then you've got to close, then you can start hunting. So different technique, but what you see in the similarity between them is power, high risk in the power. So the wolf is a tactical, strategic hunter, not a power hunter, and that's the only reason they go after the power prey. That's the only, they can unlock it. That's the only animal that can, really. The others have to rely on other stuff, but humans, we can as well. Right, now, if you're a moose, you want to have good camouflage, so you're difficult to see. You want to be quiet, so you don't give off too many calls. You don't want to give off too much smell either. And you want to be stealth against the wolf. You want to be as difficult to track and find as possible. Wolves will not begin hunting you until you're very close to them, you know, 300 meters. Wolves will not begin hunting until about 300 meters. Think about that. They can stay 1,000 meters away from a wolf pack, they're good. They've also got radar, early warning, big sensor here, their nose, picking up strange smells early, big sound instruments here, their big ears picking up sound, and they can track with one ear here, they can track with one ear here. So it's very difficult to get into that range of a moose to begin hunting. And as long as they can get moving fast and early enough, they can stay away. Using their cruise, using their adaptable feet, using their ability to also swim. And guys, think about this. Why does a mama put her calves into the water when they're only 2 weeks old? It makes sense. Yeah, when you understand her main pursuer will be the wolf pack. They are tracking her. They are tracking her calves. The moment she steps them into water, the wolves can no longer track her over water. So a mama, she wants to put her calves into water to cross water bodies a lot, to keep her tracks confused and difficult to track down. Stay one step ahead. Works very well. Now, when you're a wolf pack out here, you just got to keep moving and you got to keep tracking, because eventually you will get underneath the radar, pop up. You really want to go after mothers though, because adult moose for a wolf pack, although it's a good reward, it's very high risk. If you're going to take down an adult, there's a good chance one of you in the pack gets smashed, breaks a leg. You don't want to do that too often. You have to be pretty desperate if you're going to go after an adult or have an advantage like deep snow. So you'll see wolves go after moose, the bigger ones, more often in the winter because they can trap them in the wrong type of snow. Again, they're using tactics, they're strategy animals, all right? So that is also why you'll see adult moose moving out of deep snow areas up here when it gets a bit snowy and down to the lower lands, because they've got an instinct that, nah, I need to even this up a bit. I need to be able to move, I need to be able to strike. I'm moving out of the deep snow. I'm not hanging around over there. Okay, let's quickly just cover how a wolf pack hunt calves, because they're really good calf hunters. They are very important in ecology to manage a moose population, actually, because they go after calves. They don't go after adults very often. If they can get close enough to a mother moose with her calves, they have a big advantage than going after the younger ones or the older ones over here, like ones without mothers. And that's because if they can get on the chase of a mama moose, they can make her stop much earlier than the other types of moose, because she's got these very young, fragile, low energy little ones, and they're going to get tired much faster than she does. So when she stops, she could have continued for a lot longer herself, but her calves could not. So she's prepared to stop and take on a wolf pack on her own. Again, remember, the mama is on her own, and she's going to do that to try and protect her calves. And she's formidable, she's got a lot of power. Unfortunately for her, what's coming is the wolf pack, and they recognize the risk that she gives them, and they respect it. So when they surround her, they have already, and that's another massive advantage the wolves have, they've already understood that she is not on the menu. Her calves are what they're going to take, and to take those calves safely, they need to be able to manipulate her, move her out of the way, and use their superior numbers to take those calves. So the alpha will come in on the mama, yeah, put itself in a very high risk position where she really wants to strike that alpha, but the alpha is anticipating that strike, and that is why it's gone down into that position. That is complicated risk analysis right there, guys. Okay, highly evolved strategic hunter, yeah. Come down, anticipating reaction, waiting for it. Moment there's a reaction, it's moving out. Come with me, mama. Yeah, and she's now moving out into open space. Now the alpha will have the heat taken off of it from another pack member. The pack member will come in, distract her, move her off in a different direction. The alpha might then come round to the side, come straight in. She's now switching over here. Her calves are underneath her, trying to stay safe, but there's wolves all the way around her, 5 to 8 of them, moving in and out. And they're doing this on purpose to get her moving, get chaos, because they know if they can stay away from the kick and keep her moving, eventually these calves, or one of them, is going to pop out into open space for a couple of seconds maybe. She's just over here trying to smash a wolf over there, and there's another wolf going boom, straight in on the calf. Takes the neck, maybe the belly, but it wants the neck. Hold the neck, wait for her to react. She comes steaming over, and the wolf can survive this encounter very easily as long as it understands risk and it respects the mama and is patient, and it will let go and back off. But now the calf is injured. The calf rejoins the mother, the wolves regroup around, they begin again. So it's a very difficult animal for her to deal with because they are intelligent and they're using tactics, and that's why her best strategy will always be to avoid them. Yeah? But if they do come, she does have enough power to sort of get a lot of respect from them, and also she will survive the hunt. When they've taken the calves, she will not be harmed, hardly a scratch on her. She'll trot away. Okay, she might have lost her calves, but mentally she's very strong and she's ready to go again. And that season she gets her calves through. And in that wolf pack area, there are many mothers, and there were enough mothers that got enough calves through to keep the population healthy, but it didn't explode up into craziness. Once you lose the wolf, once you lose the calf hunter, the population of moose will explode up. This is exactly what happened in Sweden. You know, we don't have enough wolves to manage the population naturally. So that's why they replaced the wolf with the gun here. Okay, so the moose hunt in Sweden is very big. Last year they took 80,000 moose in the hunt. In previous years it's 100,000 or plus. Yeah, but that sounds very large, but when you understand that they're taking the numbers down, it makes sense for biodiversity, road safety, forest. They do take the meat, they do take the trophy, but a large motivation is not sport hunting. Okay. All right, guys. Give them a lot of respect when you see them.